First of all, I have mad respect for the uniform and all servicemen past and present, except for one. Here's my story. When I was 19, I did my military service as was custom for young men in my country. See, I am not American. Anyhow, I did enjoy my time in the Defense Force quite a lot. Made some new friends, learned a lot of new stuff, and it also bought me 1 year of thinking of what to do with my life. I had some plans to continue in uniform one way or another, but that is not really interesting in this story. What is interesting is some basic facts to keep in mind during my story, however. First of all, I did my military service only 15 minutes drive from home, which meant I knew all the area around the base pretty well since I'd grown up in there. I'm also that kind of person that will ask questions to learn more and who will always try to put in my best effort in everything I do, and also to learn the rules. As a new recruit, there is a ton of things to learn. How to dress, how many buttons to button, and so on. Shaving of the hair is encouraged but not mandatory. Same goes for facial hair. Personally, I enjoy having a bit of hair on top but shaved on the sides. And here my antagonist enters the story. One of the 3 drill sergeants that was set to teach us the basics of soldiering. I was quick to learn the ropes. Maybe not the most fit of the recruits, but certainly not the sloppiest either. Every morning we would line up for inspection, and the drill sergeants would inspect each and every one of us recruits, often finding small defects to complain about, sending us away to correct. And each time it happened to me, I would always smile and say, "Yes, sir," and go and correct it, knowing there was nothing to correct. It was just a way to drill us. Now, one of the sergeants, let's call him Sajid B. Sajid B always found something to complain about on everyone, and I think it annoyed him that I always smiled. Sajid B was shorter than average and somewhat rounded, not fat, just a bit chunkier than average as well. Instead of talking loud like the others, he preferred screaming, especially in the face of people. I guess he had seen too many war movies with bad drill instructors in them. That did not go down well with us conscripts, really. We quickly lost respect for him as a person, but we did respect him for being our superior officer, or his uniform if that makes sense. Anyhow, he did not seem to like me at all and would always mess with me. And one day I got my revenge. It was in the fall. We were outside the base training for a bigger exercise coming up. They had divided us into groups of 8 and our mission was to relocate from one location to another. We had all our personal equipment like backpack, weapon and so on, plus the group tent, stove and heavy machine gun. So we were quite heavy equipment-wise, and I was assigned group leader this event. Good thing we were in an area I knew well, so navigating was easy since I knew all paths in the forest and so on. And Sajid B was tagging along, not knowing I knew the area but my team knew. The path we took ended up at a small swamp and would split so you could walk around the swamp on either side. I decided we should take a 5 minutes rest since we were ahead of schedule anyway. Sajid B did not like that, even though I think honestly he was the one who needed it the most since he was the one huffing and puffing, despite he didn't carry anything except his uniform and a water bottle. I asked my team which side around the swamp they wanted to go and told them the pros and cons of each way. I don't remember which way we choose, but I remember I picked up the machine gun 12.4 kilograms, so quite heavy. Now Sajid B intervened and demanded I check the map, but I said we already decided to go round the swamp. For some reason, Sajid B wanted us to cross the swamp. It looked dry enough to cross, but I declined and said we'd go round. This is where he pulled rank and demanded we cross. Cue my malicious compliance. I asked him if he would take command of the group and lead us across, to which he replied, "I'll take command, group, follow me." So I stood down and let him past me. I think he managed to take about 1.5 steps into the swamp before he had sunken down to his waist in mud. We decided not to follow him and instead we all just looked at him. After a while, one of the others asked him, "Any new orders, sir?" We pulled him out of the swamp. He was furious but didn't say a word. He walked back the way we came in his wet, muddy uniform. The rest of us continued around the swamp. We did not see him back in camp that day. After that incident, he did not bother me anymore for the rest of my conscription time. Story 2. Here's how I managed my first micromanager. Back in 2010, I was working in a training management area within a government department. The job was fairly easy for me. When my original supervisor went on extended leave, so I got a new supervisor that we will call Agatha. Almost immediately, Agatha started to micromanage me, even though she didn't really know my job that well, or even half of what my role entailed. Now I will say that I didn't particularly like Agatha as a person, but I tried to get along with her, even when her management style started to show. In hindsight, I should have worked some internal politics to be removed from the area, but hey, no one said I was smart at 19. The section started to have some underlying tension until one day she called me into a meeting and, long convo cut short, said the magic words, "You need to do what I tell you to do and not what you think you need to do." She even followed it up by emailing me words to the same effect. Now I did 2 things on the heels of that meeting. Firstly, I printed out the email to keep in my bag, drawer, pocket, and on my wall. Secondly, I started to do what she said and only what she said. At first, she would just tell me the jobs that needed completing, but she only got worse when she noticed the work wasn't getting done and started to tell me how to do things. Again, I complied and only did exactly what she told me and how she told me to do it. If she missed a step in her instructions, I would either skip it if I could move on or ask her to explain again as I couldn't figure it out. I was a damn good employee. I even went out of my way to start asking her what I should be doing and how. After every task. If she wasn't in the area, which was very common, I would just wait for her to come back. If she wanted to micromanage me, I would make her work for it. She was getting nothing done. We were getting further and further behind. This went on for about a month. The reputation of our section was tanking internally and externally. Enter Michelle, Agatha's boss. She noticed all my questions and the general drop in productivity, morale, and reputation. She pulled me aside and asked me what was happening, considering I am normally so competent, efficient, and don't ask many questions about how to do the work. Small aside, Michelle was a fantastic boss and generally preferred a more hands-off approach when she could. She clearly was giving Agatha enough rope to either make a ladder or something else. Okay, back to the story. I explained to Michelle how Agatha was managing me and I was just trying to help her management style by leaning into it. I also showed her Agatha's email. At this point, I estimated I could get everything caught up in about a week without working any extended hours if things changed. Michelle, being a good boss, simply asked what it would take for me to go back to working the way I always have. I only asked to not be managed by Agatha anymore. I could have been much more insidious with my request, but I only wanted to be left alone to do my work. To my surprise, it worked. I immediately started reporting directly to Michelle. I got the work caught up in 3 days, surpassing even my own expectations. As for Agatha, she started to have her work examined a lot more closely, including her overall output, since I found out later she was trying to blame me for her low work output. It turned out that I was in fact the solution. Michelle ended up sharing Agatha's workload between the two of us, and we didn't really notice much difference. Agatha, however, did notice a difference as she was shuffled into another area of the department. One with a lot less responsibility and a whole hell of a lot less promotion opportunity. I ran into Agatha again after I had moved around the country a few times. I ended up back in the same office, but a different section. Agatha was still in the same shitty position. Same level too. Her personal reputation was so bad that only a handful of people would actually work with her. It felt good to know how stuck she was, presumably still is.